What's going on YouTube? JT Jaborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about Task Force Z issue number 11. This came out last week, and I'm just getting to it now today in time for this week's new comic book week. In fact, I come to look at the solicitations or whatever it is for tomorrow. What was releasing, it's pretty much just a bunch of annuals for a bunch of titles that I haven't really been reading, so I think there might be just one new comic book review coming out this week. So I actually picked a perfect week to kind of slack off a bit and getting these videos out here. But let's go ahead and talk about Task Force Z. This is the second to last issue of this series. I've had kind of mixed to positive things on Task Force Z in general. There's been some issues I liked, some things I disliked. Sometimes I feel like they cram a little bit too much going on in these things and it gets a little tough to follow. But then other moments they have good balances of humor. There's just a lot going on in Task Force Z. But we're nearing the conclusion of the storyline. We figured out what was going on with Bane in this issue. I was confused about the whole thing. Turns out that this Bane is, of course, a Gotham, Gotham and Gotham Girl all the way back to the beginning of Tom King's Batman run. That's who was really the fake Bane in this situation. We find out that basically he was kind of put in there in that situation to get Jason Todd to lead the team. That's what Harvey Dent wanted to see. So yeah, there's that going on here, and also KG Beast and all sorts of other members. Is this a clone of KG Beast or a fake KG Beast? Because KG Beast has gotten his ass kicked in Batgirls and in Nightwing as of late. I'm just kind of now realizing that. He's kind of all over the place. So Jason's kind of done with this whole thing. He's ready to take down Bloom himself. He feels guilty. He's thought he went after like the real Bane, but it was not really the real Bane. Gotham Girl comes in. She's pretty ticked off. She has a reunion with Gotham. The whole Lazarus Resin thing. Mr. Bloom is behind the whole thing in terms of being like the main bad antagonist of this thing. Jason kind of goes off on his own, fights various members of Task Force Z to try and take charge of the situation. A lot of fighting and a lot of chaos kind of ensues, and all sorts of other things happen. And the issue kind of ultimately culminates with him and Harvey Dent being strapped down. There's somebody who's dressed like Red Hood. It's somebody else who they're implanting memories into. Jason does a quick-witted thing to kind of think them out of the situation, and he's just like, I had a signal on the side of my thing right here, and they're like, no, you don't. And then he kind of tricks them to trigger an explosion, and then it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. Do they all die? What else happens? There's a lot going on in this issue, but that's basically the gist of it all. So overall consensus, I was pretty entertained by this particular issue. The story's getting close to reaching its climax. Mr. Bloom's kind of been a bit of an interesting antagonist in this thing. I still thought the whole Task Force Z idea was pretty, just doomed to fail from the get-go. But maybe they're going to finally be wrapping up this whole Lazarus Resin storyline, because I feel that death kind of has no meaning or consequences really in the DC universe anymore at this point, because everyone kind of comes back time and time again. And the whole zombified Suicide Squad thing, it just didn't seem like a good idea from the get-go. But Jason Todd is he's in over his head at this point. He's just trying to, every issue, you just feel the struggle and just the need to kind of get through this whole situation at some point. And we're finally going to be reaching the climax of the storyline just a year later in the next issue. So I'm looking forward to that. I think before the final issue comes out, I will go ahead and reread this entire event from the start, or this miniseries from the start to the end. And then once it's all done, I'm excited to see what direction Jason Todd takes next in terms of his character within the DC universe, because he doesn't have a full-blown solo coming out. This basically was the Jason Todd solo book for the past year, if you were interested, post Red Hood and the Outlaws. So where is he going to end up next? I don't know. Really, the only one who has a secure solo at this point is Dick Grayson as Nightwing, but that's Nightwing. He's generally one of the most popular characters at DC Comics. So it makes sense why his ongoing was going on. I'm still bummed that Damian's got canceled, but now Tim's got something going on. I don't know how long Tim's book is supposed to last. And I don't know what's going to happen with Damian's book post Batman versus Robin, because really his book is continuing in that. So that's really the next issue, but it's more of a 5-issue miniseries that's double the average length of your typical comic book. So we'll see what happens after that. We also got Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. I keep wanting to call it Dark Crisis, but no, it's Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Why didn't you just call that from the get-go? Honestly, Dark Crisis, it's easier to kind of remember than Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. I don't know why they changed the title midway through. Who knows? I feel like every Crisis in a way is a sequel to the original Crisis on Infinite Earths in some capacity. So why are they calling it Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths now instead of the end? I don't know. I'm getting a little bit off tangent. Artwork is pretty good. Matthew Rosenberg has, he does well writing the characters for the most part. He does a good job infusing humor within various situations. Although I do feel like, once again, sometimes, not as much this issue as it was the last one, there can be at times a little bit too much text kind of crammed into the page that kind of takes away from some of the art. Like, I mean, just look at this. Look at how much dialogue's kind of crammed in these pages. So there's a lot, you know, pushed into these things. Like, I compare this to, like, when I read, like, last week's issue of Robin, for instance, and that book is such a quick read and relies heavily on visual storytelling. Whereas this one, there's a lot of text and dialogue, and you definitely get your money's worth when you read these issues, per se. Like, there is a lot kind of like shoved into them. So, but we're reaching the end. Yeah, some bits can get a little bit confusing and tough to follow, but we're finally gonna be reaching the end of the storyline, and I'm looking forward to seeing the conclusion of all. So I will definitely go back and have to reread issues 1 through 11 before the final issue, and we'll see how this thing concludes. But anyways, what are your thoughts on Task Force Z issue number 11? Tell me them in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications, all that other fun stuff. I think that's going to wrap it up for all the books I had to catch up on from last week. And I think tomorrow, I only have maybe just one new comic book to review. And I think that's that, like, anthology, like DC's Saved by the Bell Rev. I think there's a Super Sons storyline in that, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to pick it up. So we'll see what it comes next. So yeah, that's all I got to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.